This event began in the work of Tianfu Dahuan. In a purplish-looking sky, it was a heavenly barrier that appeared in the high sky, and on the other side, on the edge of a cliff. A man was seen standing among the crowd of people who looked very angry. He stood alone. However, the crowd looked very aggressive. It is known that they accused the man of colluding with Satan and making death threats to people. After that, the man was attacked by a magical barrier like a purple flash and knocked the man flying. Then after that, he fell into the abyss. When he fell, he looked like he still had a tired and sad expression on his face. And you could also see on his face a lot of blood was flowing from his mouth. Then after that, on the other side, a newborn baby was seen wrapped in a yellow cloth. There was a servant there who helped a mother who had just given birth. Then the servant took the child in her arms and told her master that a son had been born to her. Then, the maid put the crying baby on the bed next to a mother who was exhausted after giving birth to the child. The young mother turned to the child and gently stroked his cheek, and she whispered softly, "My darling." However, after that, the mother's face was actually covered with sadness. Then the mother returned the newborn baby to a servant girl named Yi-Er. She asks Yi-Er to take care of the baby. Hearing that, Yi-Er complied with the young mother's request. However, having said that, the mother who had just given birth, feeling tired, said that he mentioned a big brother named Feng, and raising higher hands up, she said that she would soon meet him in heaven. But after she lifted her hand, it immediately fell on the bed. Then the waiter turned to her. Then she shouted and called her miss. Then she felt confused and asked, "Once the master and his wife have left, then what about the situation of this little young master?" And with that, she felt worried about the fate of the little young master. But besides that, a statement said that the Luo family had always valued Marshall's craftsmanship, and if his master truly had the ability, then he would have to fight for his status. Then, after that, the little newborn child was in Yi-Er's arms, and they immediately escaped from the House of Lords. She only heard words of accusation about her immoral life, therefore she is no longer fit to stay at home. But the servant girl's face did not reveal sadness, but through tears of joy she begged the little boy not to cry anymore, and Yi-Er convinces him that now they have to rely on each other, and from now on Yi-Er has to work hard to raise young master. She mopped the floors in public spaces and swept the streets. However, after 16 years, the young master tried to train his abilities. He sat in the lotus position and tried to make his magic circulate around his body. But unfortunately, he was unsuccessful and suffered energy damage which caused his body to cough up blood. He realized that he was born with a weak body with blocked meridians, and he couldn't cultivate at all. And he felt angry and blamed his God. Why did God treat him like this? Then after that, he immediately realized, why is he cultivating here? In fact, he had to do work that had to be finished immediately. And also, why do things that are pointless? And he also realized that he still had a lot of things ahead of him that he had to do too. And also he shouldn't hope that he still remains the young master of his family. Then he left the house for other business. Several hours later he arrived somewhere. This place has many people practicing martial arts. Then he walked down the busy street. However, there was seen a teacher looking at him with contemptuous eyes, and several other people who saw that whispered behind his back about him being considered trash. Because those people there already knew that he had come to learn another new technique. They claimed that this boy could still stand only because he was the grandson of the patriarch. They assumed that this fact saved him from humiliating exile from the Luo family due to his mediocre talent. However, there were many other people there who sneered and said that they had heard that the young man was cultivating the tidal determination technique and had not mastered the first stage in 10 years. Then everyone thought it was a waste, because even an ordinary martial artist would be able to break through in just 3 days with the cultivation of the time technique. Then, after that, the discussion was interrupted by an exclamation from one of the trainees announcing the arrival of the chief instructor named Luo San. Then, at the same time, The figure of a tall and strong blond man stood in front of him. Luo San was the chief training instructor of the outer hall of the Luo family. The young man had little time to see the instructor. However, at the same time he received a powerful blow with his right hand, along with concentrated energy, and was then thrown into the wall, and mist swirled around the instructor's head, and the remaining traces of energy were still flickering in his hands. He disdainfully said that his son was a talented genius. However, he was paralyzed now. But Luo Yi has no right to be healthy if it turns out he is paralyzed. After that, Luo San turned around and left the training ground. Behind him, the students and other people who saw that said that the chief instructor behaved in an unreasonable and extremely unreasonable manner, as he himself was the culprit of his own son's injury due to his cruel nature. But he didn't care how useless Luo Yi was, and he is still the grandson of the patriarch. Luo San was just taking advantage of a fact that the patriarch was in seclusion and only inflicted more wounds on Luo Yi. However, others objected because now Luo San was an expert who was at the 8th stage of the Haitian kingdom. Moreover, his father was punished by the family for colluding with the devil, and no one wanted to associate with an expert like him. But because of that trash kid, he deserved it. Sometime later, thunder was seen shining into the room through a window in the room where Luo Yi was sleeping. Luo Yi was unconscious, and Yi Er could only pray for him. She asked him to get up immediately. Yi Er had been consumed by regret because she didn't save him, so she wouldn't be able to look into the eyes of his dead parents. But as if hearing her prayers, a flash of green energy rushed towards the house and penetrated into the room through the window and entered Luo Yi's unconscious body. Then a vortex of energy concentrated in the man's forehead area and penetrated into his consciousness and caused him pain. Then after that, his body lifted, and after that his body fell far back into the mattress and made his body ache. A few days later, the man woke up, but he felt that there was something wrong with him. He didn't know where he was. His last memory was that he was working late in an office. He understands that he died and entered someone else's body. Luo Yi's body and memories instantly disappeared, but suddenly it appeared in his mind. Then the sound of breaking plates did not allow him to finally realize his position. Then Yi Er, who saw Luo Yi, immediately thanked God. Tears began to flow from her eyes, and the sound of her body unconsciously knelt down in a prayer pose. She gently took the young man's master's hand, but he was confused, so he asked if he had been born again. Analyzing the man's memories, realized that the owner of the body had lived an even more useless life than himself, after Luo Yi was beaten to death by an instructor. He endured all this for 16 years. However, the young master had Yi Er by his side who took care of him all this time. Therefore, he immediately started saying that Yi Er convinced him that he was fine and gently placed her hand on his face, then wipe away the traces of tears. And in exaggerated feelings, Yi Er embraces the young master. She accused Luo San of abuse and offered Luo Yi more rest. And in his opinion, Luo San wouldn't dare do something like that, even with 100 instructors. And after her words, the man understood that in this world a person's value was determined by his fighting skills. So with that, he decided that he had to become stronger than others to live peacefully. Besides Luo San's reasons being insufficient, that was why he needed to avenge him. In this cultivation world, there was no limit to one's strength when he reached the 10th stage of the Houston realm. He can interact with heaven and earth, which will take him to that realm. However, this stage is not easy to achieve. Therefore, Luo Yi decided that he needed to practice the new world's first battle technique, which could be divided into 5 different types: wood, metal, water, fire, and earth. The body's previous owner cultivated a time technique which was one of the best techniques of the water attribute. According to his memories, the man realized that due to blocked meridians, the flow of the tidal determination technique caused excruciating pain. Luo Yi continued to practice, and after a while felt the energy flowing in his body. He realized the power he had crushed into the first stage of the time technique, where wisps of water energy began to appear around his body. He realized that with rebirth, the body had changed, and he can definitely become stronger now. Then after that, in the Tianfu Dahu kingdom. The great Luo family has lived for over 1,000 years. The patriarch's grandson and Luo Tanfang's son were exiled to live in the servant settlement. He was in his room practicing the tidal determination technique, in connection with which the energy spread throughout the room, filling every corner. He started from the bottom, and in just 3 months was able to reach the 5th stage of the tidal determination technique very quickly. Luo Yi had no doubt that the trash title of young master was given to him by him. The group will soon disappear. However, after getting out of bed, Luo Yi accidentally overheard the conversation of 2 friends as they talked about him and their opinions. He pretended to be sick after being beaten by Luo San. Luo Yi was not disappointed by what he heard, but analyzing his strength and abilities only reached the 5th stage. He wouldn't be able to defeat Luo San, who was at stage 8, and the person who helped Luo Squen remain unpunished was a level higher. And therefore a stronger reason for the bad life of the previous owner of the body was in his father, who was punished by the family rules of Luo Tanfang's father. He is the strongest of his generation, but due to collusion with the devil, he was thrown into the abyss, and his body was never found. The shadow of his father's transgressions also lies on Luo Yi, who is now unable to trust anyone and is destined to rely only on himself. And only students who have reached the 5th stage can take higher techniques. This fact made Luo Yi think it was necessary to obtain this technique without revealing the power available. Because he had been training hard for 3 months straight and had to find a way to solve this problem, it didn't matter that all his ideas didn't result in anything good. In the pavilion for washing clothes as usual, women were involved in washing clothes. Yi Er went there, and a wet cloth flew to her face. Shocked by this, she was slashed in Ursa cloth 2 maids from the outer hall of the Luo family. They tried to force Yi Er to do extra work while insulting her. She didn't know how to protect herself and only whispered softly that she had done her part and could be free for the day. He objected that they were higher in rank than her, so they decide when her workday is over. The 6th madam's daughter and the 6th madam's dress needed to be washed, and then Yi Er could go home to the young master. She only said that her master was sick and she had to prepare medicine for him, asking him to have mercy on her. However, the 2nd woman asks angrily about how a sick, disabled person can be more important than a princess. Yi Er couldn't stand her. Her body was filled with anger, and she screamed in the woman's face to stop saying bad things towards the young master. The lady activated the flaming fist technique intending to hit Yi Er, but she was interrupted by a voice filled with anger telling her that if she wanted to die the moment she touched Aunt Yi Er. Having the woman's body pierced by Luo Yi's technique caused her to fall backwards onto the ground. Yi Er wasn't even touched by the technique. Even though he was several centimeters away from Lady Yi Er through the reflection technique, saw the young master's body, his right arm was completely engulfed in viola energy. Then concentrate the energy in the palm of his hand. The shocked lady screamed hysterically that he would not be left alone, and the 6th madam would find him. Luo Yi just indifferently said that it would not stop him. After that, he struck the final blow. The lady experienced excruciating pain all over her body, and blood flowed from her mouth. After such a blow, the woman would never wake up again. The Luo family's outer hall servant quickly realized that Luo Yi was no longer a pathetic piece of trash, so he started asking for mercy and bowed at its feet. Luo Yi decided not to dirty his hands and walked past it. He said that if he told anyone about what had happened, then he would overtake him. The young man went to the crying Aunt Yi Er as he said with a kind smile that no one will touch her again. Then they both left, leaving the maid behind them thinking. That maid lady was at the 4th stage of the flaming palm technique, but couldn't even touch the young master. Apparently the wind was blowing in a different direction. Now during the conversation, Aunt Yi Er asked not to reveal the secret about young master's strength, because she was old and she didn't care what happened to higher self. But he didn't want anything to happen to her. He assured her that he would work it all out. He reflected that Luo Yi Yang the witness to the brawl, was not stupid enough to tell anyone about what had happened in the very strict kingdom of Dahua. So even the useless prince couldn't refuse a servant. A morning later, Luo Yi trained the tidal determination technique again. He understood that in order to reach the 6th level, he needed a technique of the same level, just figuring out how to get it. Outside, he met Luo Liang, who greeted the young man with a respectful bow. Luo Yi saw him invite him into the house after they entered the room. He asked the servant what he needed and why he had come to him. He was sorry for bad attitude that was put out in the past and swore that he would follow his orders. But after that, the servant realized that while the great patriarch was in seclusion, temporary patriarch Luo Tanba was in power, who was not on good terms with Luo Tanfang, and a young master will try to hide powers until the patriarch comes out of seclusion for 6 months, so he would need help. This was a great opportunity to take the higher ground for Luo Yi after thinking about what Luo Yi said, asking for scriptures about the 6th and 7th tide techniques that promised Luo Liang severing rewards. That this was the promised test to obtain this scripture in 3 days. Luo Liang immediately turned to the technique guardian in the inner hall. The guardian asked why he needed the 6th and 7th levels of the tidal determination technique. Because he cultivated completely different techniques, Luo Liang also came up with the story that his nephew had reached the 5th level. But cultivation had stopped, so he could continue improving. Luo Liang found the Hong brothers. Honga also warned that getting technicians from Hull inside out could be punished by death. But he swore to him that he himself would follow his nephew, who, by the way, did not even live in Tang. And will he learn the technique and leave immediately? And no one will know what he is taking full responsibility, and will not mention the Hall brothers. Then Hong concentrated his energy in his hands. It formed a small ball. He explained that this was a thick Kai pill that would work for 6 months. Luo Yi Yang accepted the ball and promised to repay the debt to the Hall brothers, after which Hong left for an hour. After a while he returned with 2 scriptures warning that the scriptures must not be lost or damaged. Luo Liang promised to return the favor and thank you, while thinking that such a quick completion of the task required more help from the young master. Then he provided a scroll with a technique that he had obtained from young master Luo, which he was very pleased with. Moreover, he once again swore allegiance to the young lord for the rest of his life, promising to carry out any orders stemming from the revoked orders without unnecessary questions. Ingratitude for the task allowed Luo Yi Yang to no longer kneel. But when he was in the young master's room, he asked if Luo Yi had really suspended Aunt Yi Er from work. An immediate response was received that Luo Liang could not force the young master's most valuable aunt to work. He also complains that this is the only thing he can do for Yi Er due to her limited abilities. Yue praises the maid for her work, but asked him not to overdo it anymore and also not allow him to come into the house from now on. Master will find him himself. Luo Yi Yang immediately realized that this might attract unnecessary attention and agreed. That it was carelessness on his part, he agreed and left. 3 months later, looking at the snowy scenery outside the window, Luo Yi pondered that the 6th and 7th stages were very difficult. He took 3 months to master the stages up to mid-7. There are 6 months left. Until the start of this year's talent tournament. In the tournament, he needs to prove his skills and enter the Martial Palace skill winners. He assumed that he would be in danger until he reached the end of the 7th stage. After he passes through the Haoshan realm and reaches the innate realm, the time of retribution will come to his mind. But after that, Luo Yi turned to the previous owner of the body. He promises him to take revenge on everyone who mocked him and not to spare anyone's thoughts disturbed by Yi Er's repentance. He asked if the young master remembered what day it was. Liu answered that today was the day his mother died. Aunt Yi Er confirmed his guess and asked him to go to the graves of the Miss and the second master to give them prayers. The center in Luo Yiville. He went to the outskirts of the village to pay his respects to the second miss and master, kneeling before the altar of death. While Luo Yi wondered if he could be considered their son. Even if this wasn't the case, he still wasn't against worshipping them to tears. Yi Er asks how they are doing. He complains that Yi Er also wants to go to them to continue serving. However, the young master was still too young, and she couldn't leave him and go to them. Shunner cried bitterly again and wailed that he couldn't take enough care of him and let his owner fall. You helped him get up from his knees and opened an umbrella over the crying ants to cover them about the falling snow. New Year's Eve. The Luo family's annual Main Street Festival was decorated with lantern confetti. There was a festive atmosphere everywhere as the entire Luo family walked through the crowd of cheering people. But the Luo family has become the strongest in all Chandu for a reason, because the branch lord of the family looks noble and dignified. The jewels and music only emphasized the honor of the families who were in the crowd watching, and were shocked to see that the festival was truly lively. However, a sound disturbed his thoughts. Turning his head, he saw how the second son of Luo Tian base he was riding a horse dispersed the crowd on the road behind him. His minions also ride horses. Luo Yi remembered that they were the ones who had bullied him in his previous life. The crust of ice that quickly spread along the road and firmly embedded in the horse's hoof prevented him from moving. All the horses threw their riders in surprise. Luo Yi tried to get up after falling. However, he failed, and his legs just split in different directions on the ice, forcing Luo how to fall again. He was angry, and his servants tried to lift him up. Luo Yi remarks with cheerful indifference that this is just the beginning and a time of full reckoning awaits him. Then he went to the obelisk of the ancestors of the Luo family. There he saw the head of the family and the elders. It was the head of the family and his grandfather. His greatness and strength could be seen. Even to the naked eye, he was worthy of being called the head of the family with his own aura, and he silenced everyone. This is possible only for the owner of great power, his figure towering majestically. Above the crowd, and the golden robe only emphasized his status next to the family patriarch, was Luo. After the death of his brother Luo Chanfeng, he encouraged people to drink and celebrate as they always fought for power among themselves. It was him planning to reach the innate realm and break away from the drama of the Luo family. The head of the family talked about the fact that 29 generations had passed since their ancestor Luo. King Fang came to the palanquin today. They pay homage to their common ancestors on the last day of the old year. He hopes that the glory of the family will continue to be passed down from generation to generation. To honor this, he said, for sacrifice. The victim was a liger demon beast. He is a large creature resembling a lion whose claws are so sharp that they can cut golden donuts like tofu. He was carried in a cage by 4 servants. It turned out this was a mature animal and became a first-class sacrifice for the festival. When the cage was lowered his head, the family ordered the door to be opened. However, it happened in the blink of an eye, and the beast was out in the street and immediately tried to attack him. The patriarch didn't have time to do anything because the patriarch's energy started to revolve around him. However, in Yo Jump, he only had time to be shocked. This couldn't possibly exist in reality. Was this power? A power that was beyond the innate realm. While Luo Tianba's sword, which was surrounded by his energy, cut through the air and gave the final blow to Aaliyah, cutting off his head, he was amazed by the complete unity with the sword, showing that Luo Yi was at the peak of the Haoshan realm, and only 1 step away from the innate realm. While the patriarch's energy enveloped the beast's head in a ball of fire, and lifting it from the ground, he asked the audience to kneel and bow to the ancestors. And after that, he, along with the head of the beast, rushed to heaven. At that moment he realized that this was the power he needed to increase. He had to go over his head and rise to the top of the world. Then after that, the Luo family head announced the start of the annual tournament. Those who have reached level 5 and above can go to the hall. In the level check is as follows. There was the Luo family's treasure trove of memory stones, by which the level of strength was measured with a single swipe of his palm. He could determine the level of strength based on the destruction of the palm mark of the inspector called Luo Feng, who struck a single blow with the destructive technique golden palm branches on stone. However, the inspector stated that this blow caused damage equal to a depth of 5 4 inches, meaning that the technique was at the 5th level. Luo Feng happily left, and another participant took his place all this time. Lulu Yu stood in line waiting for her turn. Suddenly a hand was placed on his shoulder with a sarcastic voice asking if he was the 23rd brother. Luo Yi turned around and saw the familiar him, who last noticed that he had grown up because the family had improved the food. However, after that, he wanted to laugh with the six, but they didn't. Let him do it, they were prevented by cousin Luo Bing Yun. She was the daughter of Luo Tan Chuang's second uncle, and one of the few members of the Luo family who treated him well. But after facing the surprise, Luo Hao continued to mockingly say that not even a year. After their last meeting, Luo Yi kept hiding behind women's skirts, but it tried to silence him. But he was interrupted by Liu, who asked dear 17th brother how he was doing all this time. Some days he also hopes he will be more careful. Way somewhere there was a whisper from behind about how he dared talk to 17th brother like that. What's with this little fellow? And also that he was beaten half to death with one punch by Luo San, so he lost his last bit of sanity. Took the hint and was furious. He hissed through gritted teeth in anger, "What did you say?" He only answered that he had heard about what happened yesterday. Because he was worried about it, energy started to gather around Luo Yi. He said that he was obliged to teach Luo Yi proper manners to his elders, but he prevented him from getting in his way by throwing him to appease his order. Because the annual tournament is taking place today, Uoha doesn't want to cause anger. Ohio elders agreed, but warned that she was letting go of Luo, and only today, but from tomorrow she must be wary of 17th brother. He thanked Luo Bing Yun from the bottom of his heart, to which the latter replied that she as an older sister must protect him. He asked Luo Yi to be alert, but he was cruel in the future. Luo Yi had just realized that there was a family rule that even Luo Yi didn't dare to look out of, but he just admired how confident Luo Yi was. Meanwhile, Luo Yi announced that the evaluation of the main branch of the bloodline was complete now. But he was interrupted by Luo Yi, who noticed that he had not been examined, yet the crowd around him was laughing, throwing mud at him. But all this was interrupted by the head of the family's decision to loudly announce that he could pass the test. However, instead he was angry. But gives in and invites Luo Yi to the Stoneview memory. Obinion tries to stop him by asking if he is sure. And even though he only assured that everything would be fine. He walked to the rock and concentrated all his energy in his right hand. After that, he hit the inspector, announced that the depth was 5 3 inches, title, Yogi Art is at the 5th level. People started talking in the middle. Then, at 16, to get the 5th level of the stage as brilliant, which means he is not a loser at all. Luo Yi was also praised by the examiner. He thought that all this glory should belong to the loser. Luo Yi had dropped the trash title. He was still hiding cards up his sleeves. Then, after that, they became confused as to how this loser could be so strong for his age. But his questions remained unanswered, and he announced loudly that the main branch family tree assessment had been completed, and the children of the side families would be evaluated. Meanwhile, Luo Bing Yun rushed to Liu. He was happy, and kept asking how he could reach such a level, and why he didn't tell his little sister. That he was amazed, and Liu thought about the need to find a reasonable excuse. Then he told him that when he was beaten by Luo San 6 months ago. Then, after that, an old man appeared to him on the verge of life and death and forced him to eat a strange pill. After that, the wound not only recovered completely, but also stopped having problems with repair, to reach the 5th level of nothingness in 6 months. Meanwhile, Luo Yi thought that he had extraordinary support. Since no one could do anything wrong to him, he needed to reach the innate realm, and then all those who despise him will pay the ringer. Then Bell interrupted the flow of thoughts and announced that by the end of this year, other than 4 members from the main family and 12 members from the side families who had reached the 5th level would be able to enter the inner palace. Those who have not reached the 5th level will participate in the elimination match. After these words, a girl in white flew into the arena watching the battle, noting that it was more exciting than what could be seen on TV. However, he easily and single-handedly scattered everyone who tried to compete with him and became the only winner. This aroused his respect. And then, He decided to himself that such a force should be taken into account, with Ochamba announcing the end of this year's tournament, and asked everyone who got the right to enter the inner hall to gather at the military palace's elite fighting pit. However, after that, Ye went to the inner palace where he saw Luo San at the entrance. Luo Yi thought irritably that enemies often crossed paths. Luo San's face was distorted by a hateful grin that he couldn't help but understand why was alive again. However, Luo Yi was saved by some magic pills. But no one saved his son. Luo San's son talent is better than you always. The guards also did not let Luo in with reason, that the common people had nothing to do. In the inner hall he asked Luo San why he was still considered a rebel. Even though he had the qualifications, Luo San turned away. Ignoring the question, Luo Yi realized that nothing could be achieved by talking, so he started concentrating his energy in his body. He confirmed that he didn't want to do this at the same time as the swords in the guards' hands flew in all directions, as did the soldiers themselves. Luo San asked angrily how he dared to raise his hand against the Iron Guard. After that, he ordered his soldiers to attack Luo Yi. The fighters obeyed the orders. One of the soldiers explained that those who attack the Iron Guard, regardless of their status, should be executed. The fact that Luo was a direct descendant of the family did not give him the right to act at his own discretion. Luo Yi interrupted the speaker by saying that they were violators of the rules. He had obtained the qualifications to enter the inner martial palace by reaching the 5th stage middle strength, and the entire Luo family knew it. But the guards dared to go against the family rules and tried to stop him. The soldiers of the Iron Guard were given power by the Luo family, but why should they be? Luo Yi sent documents precisely. It was such a war that should have been embarrassed by the Triad's violent abuse of power was interrupted by Luo San, who descended on Luo Yi. His whole body was covered with fiery energy. He asked Liu what he was talking about. Luo Yi, after assessing the opponent's strength, realizing that he was using an early Golden Core technique of the 8th level, he tried to provoke Luo San, calling the latter a dog, and asking him about his intentions for the brawl. However, it was interrupted by him, and both opponents felt the power surrounding his body. Luo Yi thought evilly that Luo Tamba just wanted to be a good person. After watching the show for so long, he just wanted to check on Liu Chanba. Asked what happened, Luo Yi explained that the old dog Luo San didn't let him into the palace. Although today, Luo Yi was given permission to enter the elite battle hall and asked to assess the situation. He turned to Luo San to see if Luo was telling the truth. The instructor started to deny. He said that Luo San wanted to enter the gym without saying a word, but he continued to tell. Instead, Luo sent that in this case, the guards decided to stop him, but Luo Yi injured them seriously. So Luo San intervened, but he chuckled, thinking that they were a pair of great actors who wanted to cancel his qualifications. Then he immediately replied that was the first thing he said. But when he came to the inner palace, was that he summoned the 3rd elder. He also accused Luan of disrespecting Uncle Luo Yi, and that's why he lied. Despite his age, Luo Yi could see the lies in Luo Sen's eyes. Luo Yi just irritably noted to himself that this Luo Yi kid had become too smart, and now knew how to shift the blame onto others with the help of the sneaky words he was using right now. But his name was to silence him. But after that, he concluded that Luo Yi should not be underestimated now out loud. He said that the situation happened just because of a small misunderstanding, so he asked Luo San to listen to people from now on. He asked Luigi to follow him along the snow-covered road. There were columns of masters who had received qualifications, and Luo San's improvised caravan was closed. Then he informed the masters of his arrival. But after they entered the inner martial palace, they would be able to choose and learn martial techniques from the sacred hall. Elite Battle Hall is the core of the Luo family, because it has kept the holy books for thousands of years. But just by choosing a scripture from there, it was already a great success in approaching the door of the martial palace. Luo Tianba introduced himself and explained that he had brought a disciple to select scriptures. When the door was opened, the disciples saw one of the Ochamba elders bowing politely. When the elder asked about the health of the patriarch, Nuo Chanbo assured that everything was fine. Then, with the head of the family and thanking the elders for the improved care. The elder's gaze made Luo feel uncomfortable, because he thought the elder saw through him. The elder just chuckled and muttered that the seed wasn't so bad this time. After that, he turned around and went to the hall, telling Tamba that they could go in for the latter to tell them about the rules. And he immediately began to carry out orders leading the recruits through the battle hall. Luo Tianba said that they were on the first floor of the Divine Warrior Hall, which was divided into 6 main categories, depending on the nature of the technique. And everyone can recognize attributes by their color, but rivals can only be on the ground floor, and no scriptures should leave the walls of the hall. Beginner masters can rewrite the necessary information. Everyone has only 2 hours to do this. In addition, in the future, to access the Hall of Holy Warriors, you need to confirm your qualifications. In this case, the first technique chosen by the master is very important. He once again warned that the entrance to the second floor was prohibited, which was near the stairs, and then after that. To the second floor felt a powerful energy ore, and realized that an elder was guarding this particular entrance. Luo Yi ignored this force and walked to a bookshelf with writing. He understood that his title technique had reached the peak of the 7th level, and he needed the 8th level scriptures to progress further. However, after starting to read the scriptures, Luo Yi realized that there were only scriptures up to the 7th level on the first floor. Perhaps the 8th level scriptures were on the 2nd floor. He understood that with his current strength, if he tried to go up to the 2nd floor, he would die. After a little thought, he decided to develop another technique. As he passed the shelves, he read the title, Cloudy Arrangement of Palm Trees, Body of Flowing Light, Azure Sword Scriptures, Smooth Flowing Rain. Last name interested him. You ponder. That if he could comprehend the ethereal rainflow technique to the 3rd level, he would be able to understand a little of its true meaning. Then from the water pillar, and this technique is one of the most powerful in the world. It was strange that such a powerful technique was located on the 1st floor. After reading the scroll, Luo Yi realized that this was only the 1st level of technology decided to focus on other more useful techniques. 2 hours later, Luo Tamba told the novice masters about the end times. He said that in 2 months, the masters would go to Cloudflow Island for training. Luo Tianba advised the newcomers to hone the skills they had acquired in the Sacred Hall of Warriors during these 2 months, so as not to bring shame to the honor of the Luo family during the battle. Cloudflow Island Yuo was attracted by the words about the battle on the island. He thought they would fight for something after leaving the inner palace. Luo Yi was greeted with a bow by the servants who were lined up in rows. Then after that, Aunt Yi and Luo Yi were already on their way to meet him. Aunt Yi explained that they were in the hot sky pavilion that had been opened for Liu. The Obinian sisters also came to greet and congratulate. But after that, he noticed that this pavilion was usually given to the 2nd generation of the family, who found it difficult for the 3rd generation to visit here. He offered Bing Yun to share the pavilion, but the latter refused to accept so generous a gift. He understood that his recent achievements had appeased those higher up in the family. Meanwhile, he asked about the technique that Luo Yi chose. The latter answered that he was interested in the sword technique. Benyon immediately asked for permission to give the first sword to Luo Yi, and to improve his technique, he thanked his sister. However, without warning Liu that all these pavilion servants were appointed from above and could be spies, so he asked Luo Yi to be more careful looking. He thanked his sister for the warning. In the evening, Luo Yi went to the tomb before Chan Feng so that he wouldn't be seen by extra eyes in the residence. He was sure no one would go there. However, as he approached, he saw a lonely figure sitting near his father's grave approaching him. He was shocked to realize that it was the patriarch he was waiting for. Luo, the head of the family, asked if Luo Yi hated him, because as a grandfather, he did not fulfill his role. Luo Yi just shrugged his shoulders, noting that he didn't remember him as a grandfather. Therefore, he felt no hatred. But he understood that the status of patriarch imposed obligations on someone he could understand. That the patriarch was satisfied with these words, so he reminded him that the latter, no matter what, still remains a member of the Luo family, and handed the scroll of scripture to Luo by taking it. Then in his hands, Luo Yi realized that it was a bound technique from the 8th to 10th level. The patriarch explained that although he did not know the technique where Luo had true power, because even he, head of the family, couldn't see it at first glance, but asked to fix it, Oyi must always be alert. Luo Yi just admired the chief's knowledge and observation. Even though there was nothing else expected from the patriarch of the millennial family, when the patriarch left, Luo Yi immediately began to train his mind. He is full of thoughts in this family, and the rules are very strict, so that even the patriarch needed to find an inhospitable place to give the scriptures to his grant. And after 2 months of Luo Yi training the Azure Sword technique, all efforts were in vain. After the end of the first level, the light of the 7 swords must spread out to erase the sharp rays of light. But it didn't work for him. Liu developed this technique to the 7th level, but he couldn't do it. He didn't understand what he was doing. Then after that, he was standing in the rain. He was thinking about technology. The thought came to his mind, what if a stream of smooth rain streams, a flowing stream of rain, would help him? A smooth stream of rain is a rain of small drops of energy flowing down from above and forming a large lake of energy. Each drop fills the lake and make it bigger and stronger. Luo Yi realized that he was on the path, and everything would work out for him. Then the rain stream and sword stream that Kai combined to form the strongest energy concentration in Luo Yi's pain attacked them on the training stone, turning it into ice training. The novice master in another part of the forest heard a loud explosion, turning around at the noise, trying to find the source. While Luo Yi realized that this was the true power of the sword technique, Azure definitely faked his help. That's why the rain started slipping it in the right direction to be its destination. Next is to reach the truth of the water technique that no one has learned so far. You realize how terrifying Azure's sword technique is because he has used all his stamina using it. You have to be ready to use it. Another time, but when he turned around, he heard another master trying to find the source of the noise. He was surprised that he had attracted so much extra attention. It was not the time to be exposed. So he carefully hid in the forest bushes. The novice masters who arrived at the noise only saw a hail of rocks turning into ice crystals, and this can be done by someone who has the water attribute. However, it is not lower than the 7th level. The trainer corrected that this could be done by someone at the innate realm. Everyone was shocked. There was another expert on the same level as Patriarch Obinion who was among the arrivals, offering to inform the family that there is an expert with such power behind the mountain-eating yogi was interrupted by Luo Bingyun. He asked Luo Yi and where he had been all day. You answered he was cultivating in the lowlands of the mountain. Then he was shocked and asked if he was behind the mountain. Luo Yi explained that he wasn't there and asked what happened. Sister explained that there was an unknown expert in that region who was in his innate realm. He was surprised that an expert in the innate realm understood that Bingyun was talking about him. But he was not in the innate realm. He asked why they thought that the person who intruded the family territory was an expert in the innate realm, Bingyun. Then he explained that the 13th elder who was with him told him that innate revolved around his gaze. He realized that Bingyun was talking about the flow, which would help to understand the truth of the technique. You can't learn this feeling verbally, just feel it yourself. It would help Liu to reach the innate realm. After he reaches the peak of the Hongshan realm, you ask how the family will deal with those foreigners. Then he explained that the seed did nothing, but just advised not to go to that part of the mountain too often. Sister also reminded me that on March 5th, Luo Yi and Luo Bingyun will go to Cloudflow Island. So it is necessary to improve the technique as much as possible. Until then, Luo Yi promises to work hard on March 5th. Bingyun and Luo Yi arrived at the sand cross at the harbor from where the ship departed island, and the cloud flow of a large number of people was already standing in the square. Luo Yi was confused as to why there were so many people. Bingyun answered that in the Luo family, those who had not reached the 8th level and had not reached the age of 30 had to train on Cloudflow Island every year, and over time the number of people increased. Luo Yi asked about the fact that they would still be standing here. Then Eon explained that he as a beginner had been assigned to a small group that he led. Luo Yi and Bing Yun went to their group upon arrival. They met the captain of the 15th brother group named Liu, who he introduced himself and asked to be called Big Brother. However, he also wanted to introduce him to everyone present. But he was interrupted by a bald man. The man said that there was no need to introduce him. He sings lowly, respecting him. He can call him Brother Sing. But if he doesn't respect him, he can call him Bald Liu. You laugh and say that this is the essence of Brother Sing. She is too direct. And the vice captain of the group, she also asked if it was uncomfortable for you answered that she likes Frankness's brother. Sing and did not mind and asked him to call him baby. And another time, Sing's brother laughed and admitted that he likes Luo Yi. So if the latter has any questions, he can safely contact him. Liu hopes that everyone will get along well this year. Third uncle will do it. He led the troops. The only one close to his uncle was his son. Luo Yan uncle also gave orders to the first 5 groups to board the first ship themselves. So the seating started. OG was in the 3rd group, so he also followed on board the first ship. After all the group had boarded, Uncle gave the order to leave for the island. Then Luo Yi was observing the water sea level. When Sister Bing Yun called him, he noticed that Luo Yi was also on their ship, and because of his bad temper, he couldn't accept what Luo Yi said to him at home. But it is dangerous where everyone can be maimed or even killed. So he highly recommends always having someone nearby, so Luo Hao can't cause trouble. Luo Yi thanked his sister, and to divert her attention, asked how big the cheerful sea was. However, Bing Yun answered that there were territorial waters within 500 kilometers of the city, and beyond 500 kilometers from them, there were external territorial water clouds flowing. And the island is located near the border of the territorial waters, and only a few people know what the border of the external territorial waters is like. Legend has it that there are demon beasts in that place that move freely. Then because someone is prohibited from entering there, the area has been restless lately. So during the release of the family, and they met a lizard beast of the 9th level. Then he expressed the hope that this trip would go smoothly. Luo Yi thought at this time that when he reached the level of the innate realm, he would travel to meet martial artists and see the various magical animals he was training in the ship's cabin. But after that, he was thrown against the wall. In confusion, he heard the screams of the demonic beasts that had invaded Yu Yu's ship in amazement, and ran out onto the deck. He saw a huge snake whose size was comparable to the size of the ship with precision. He attacked the deck and destroyed it, breaking the wooden beams with a blow. Others fell overboard. Where it was, the people from the deck who tried to escape among them was Bing Yun because of the destruction. Bing Yun's feet were stuck, and he was unable to leave the ship. Meanwhile, the snake realizes that the victim is in no hurry to escape, so it prepares to jerk. The snake rushed to the girl while Luo Yi ran to save his sister, hitting the beam with his hand, and destroying the tree. He freed Bing Yun's feet, and was just in time because after a split second in the girl's place, there was a monster head who realized his mistake. The snake chased Luo Yi and Bing Yun. However, at that moment he was prevented by a fiery energy. The stream of fire hit the snake right in its snout, throwing the beast back. Luo. He noticed that third uncle Luo Tianxing was swallowed by its energy at an incredible speed, was moving towards the beast. Everyone was confident that third uncle with a 9th level fire technique would defeat the demon spawn with a precise blow. Luo Tian. But all the mentors rejoiced that third uncle was able to defeat the monster that you would have realized by now if there were so many powerful masters in the Luo Yi family. Then how many masters are there in the whole world? He definitely needs to reach the pinnacle of technology to conquer the world while this ship has reached Cloudflow Island. The island is a mountain that goes wrong. This is where they have to live for 1 year. After mooring, the masters descended to the ground. The island was covered in trees, which the seniors saw from the newcomers, indicating which direction the Luo family camp was located. Beginning masters are warned that if they are injured, they must return to camp to avoid dying. The camp was a small village consisting of 5 large tents guarded by them. Guard Luo Yi asked his sister who Luo Bingyun's guard was, explaining that this was the army of Dahua country. However, because Luo Yi's family was not the only one practicing on the island, Bingyun was immediately placed on the sofa and sent to the doctor. Then he was too worried about Luo Yi, so he asked Luo Yi to look after him. The latter agreed, while third uncle gave each of them a dragon tiger nailed pill. After that, he offered to look around and assess the situation around him. But he knew that the dragon tiger pill was necessary, so that in half a year, a martial artist at home in the kingdom could reach the next stage. He decided for himself that once he reached the 9th stage, he would immediately eat a pill to easily reach the 10th stage. Liu explained to him the group during the first 3 months. They won't take the mission, but will practice techniques while fighting demonic beasts of the 5th and 6th levels as the group moves towards the forest. But suddenly, Lu Yu stopped the team. He warned that there was a demonic beast of the 5th level ahead, but there are many of them necessary to not anger or attract the attention of all the animals. Then he felt one of the demonic beasts coming towards them. Lord saw a monster that looked like a boar. Lu Yu told the group that there was a boar in front of them, a demon beast of the 5th entry level. The beast is not fast, but its defense is not weak, and the weak point of the beast is its eyes. Lu, you asked if the masters were confident in their strength. Nui understood that he could not retreat and did not participate in the first battle with the demon beast. But no one should know that his strength is much higher than everyone imagines. However, he only had to use the 5th intermediate level technique. Luo Yi came out of his hiding place and was noticed by a wild boar. From the fury of the beast, smoke came out of its nose and pointed its sharp tusks towards Luo Yi. He ran towards it, gaining speed. Luo Yi concentrated energy around his body, and sword attacked the wild boar. First he jumped onto the monster's back, moving behind, bringing the beast to fight with sharp, and hit Luo Yi with its energy. Then after that, he started concentrating around the beast. Oi realized that it was badly attacked by the demonic boar. Luo Yi retreated backwards. He saw the demonic energy of the beast directed towards him with an aggressive intention to attack the eel that fell from the boar's jump, but managed to transfer his energy to his feet, keeping boar's fangs away from his body. He pushed the beast aside and jumped back. Then, he himself increased the distance between them. Luo Yi realized that the tidal technique had effected against Luo Yi, reflecting that his skull was too dense. He would not be able to attack by transferring energy into the sword. Luo Yi dealt the final blow to the animal, defeating it. Liu came out of hiding, grabbing Luo Yi's arm to make him run. He explained that the wild boar growled before it died, which attracted the attention of the other demon beasts. Luo Yi warned that it was necessary to cut the airway, so the animal cannot make any sound. Luo Yi offers to show how it is necessary to fight with animals to minimize strength and losses. Although you saw the demon fox near the pond without the beast knowing, he crept up behind him. He attacked his neck with his sword. However, the fox only managed to concentrate the fire energy and release it from its mouth. But it was too late. The novice teacher was watching from shelter, rejoicing at Luo Yi's victory. However, Luo Yi was surprised, even though you only needed 8 breaths to defeat that animal. He wouldn't be able to beat him. Even if he was at the 8th level, would you ask if Luo understands how to fight demonic beasts? Siyu answered that animals rely on their instincts, and he needs to use the environment in this instinct, then it will not be difficult to defeat them. Then he confirmed his guess, but clarifies that this requires experience. Nui has talent. Now experience is required to succeed. Lu Yu explains that the technique he demonstrated is one of many that can be used for hunting. These few months were necessary to hone young master's skills. After his words, the novice masters began to practice their hunting skills diligently. 3 days later, while at the family camp, Luo Luyu announced Bingyun's recovery. From now on, they can take missions as the 3rd complete team. Inspires. Luo Xing asks what kind of missions they will take, what level of beast they will hunt. Luo Yi replied that their next prey would be a demon beast at the peak of the 7th level Panther Knight soon. After the group catches him, he has to return to the camp with his head. The beast has high speed. Neon Mind isn't the speed of the beast being barrier to capture. Are you sure that the beast was always a wild animal? And with a plan to capture it would be easily inspired by this response, the team went hunting. No one noticed that two people were watching them from a tree. It was Luo Chanxing and Luo Tanchen. Luo Tanxing asks Luo Tanchen not to harm the others while carrying out Luo's orders to eliminate Liu II, assures Luo Tanxin that everything will be fine being in a cave hiding from the heavy rain. Would you argue that even though the island is called Cloud Creek, but it rains like that was unusual for him? They a few days later reached the Night Panther's sanctuary. Liu even managed to make a plan which he would discuss with the group. He explained that the Night Panther is a beast of the 7th rank, and below to defeat it, you have to use water attribute which will limit its mobility. Junior brother, Dixingi, Zio Kiwi. We have to slow down the beast because they have cultivated the tidal technique. After slowing down Ruer, and Eisner has to use the root technique to catch the beast. Zio Yang will use the earth-bending technique to electrocute the animal, while Liu himself and Luo Xian will take position to give everyone the final blow in all of Luo Yi's plans, and agree with him. Meanwhile, Luo Yi realizes that for 8 days, their group was followed by an unknown person, who he realizes that they are after Luo Yi himself, have a chance to survive. Then after that, in a heavy rain, he walked between the forest. Luo Yi left the cave and headed towards the depths of the Luo forest that you had trained in all night. He understands that in their world there are those who live thanks to water, and there are those who control water. Lightning steps are steps formed with the help of light, and help to move in space at lightning speed. However, they absorb too much of Kai's energy, so they can only be used as a last resort. The next morning, the entire group gathers near the nest. Night Panther Liu beckoned that he would go first to explore the beast's habitat and order the rest to wait in place. While Luo Tanchen and his men were watching them, he needed to wipe out Lului, but they never got the chance. Luo Yi was constantly with the group, making it impossible to attack. However, they had to proceed with Plan B. He ordered his son Dinger to wait in place, and even if he was delayed, not to take any action. Tianchen decided that he would be able to protect the group. That was why he decided to use a spiritual refreshing pill on the demonic beast to gain control full of the beast's thoughts. Luo Yi should be proud for forcing Tanchen to use such a pill and die with honor. After that, he launched the pill into the purple harpy's body. Using the secret technique, he recruited the harpy's mind. But this slavery was only temporary, and Tanchen remembered it. He believes he will have enough time to kill you. He planned to use the harpy as a means of transportation. While Lu Yu was in the cave that night, the Panther team was happy he was inside too long and didn't come out. After some time, he came out and explained that there were too many branches and vines in the cave which prevented the passage of the beast. Fell into a deep sleep. And this is an ideal situation for them to attack the Panther. And the chances of success are high. We should move forward now. Tianchen's people who were watching the team were very happy that the group wanted to enter. But Dinger ordered them to wait. He wanted revenge on Luo Yi for his downfall. One of them saw a demonic beast in the sky. Dean ordered them to sit still, because they were not sure that the beast would fall on them. After the beast approaches, Dean notices his father in the harpy. He is stunned, and does not understand how his father managed to subdue him. Demonic beast Tianchen ignored the question and asked where the group was going. Dean answered that they are in Tianchen Cave, demanding to set up a trap at the cave entrance. He explains that they need to separate Luo Yi from the others too. And while the third team was implementing Luo Yi's plan, Luo Yi started to interfere. The Night Panther woke up. Beast rushed towards the man, which was a signal to the rest of the team. The participant who cultivated the time technique slowed down the monster and surrounded it with a wall of ice at the same time. Slowed animals are repaired by plant roots growing through the ice. Then both masters rushed to the beast to complete his plan. But something went wrong, and the beast escaped from the grip of the root technique and was able to avoid the blow. From one of their swords, Master Li realized that this was the right moment for Luo Yi's winning attack. Then, after that, Luo Yi approached the panther, raising his sword for the final blow. However, he heard the sound of a wing beast, and if a second beast appeared in the cave, Night Panther's speed and reaction would increase. The panther was able to dodge Luo Yi using the latter's blow. After assessing the situation, ordered the group to leave the cave immediately. The harpy appeared too suddenly, and at the most opportune moment, the third team ran towards the exit. However, they noticed the two of them how close the entrance is. You will ask them if they have attracted any flying beasts into the cave. However, Luo Yi explains that they tried to hunt the harpies, but didn't calculate their strength, and decided to hide in a cave. Leo doubts their words, and asks why the harpy's nest is not marked on the mat. The question remains unanswered when Black Panther emerges from his body cave. Enveloped in energy, and with a jump, he attacked the people standing at the entrance. Leo tried to repel the attack by diverting his energy to the sword and launching a counterattack. Two opposing energies unite in battle, and neither wants to give up. However, suddenly a small stone stake was formed between Lu and the panther, which caused serious damage to the panther. Duo Ding assured that his team would help protect the panther. In addition, he offered to lure the harpy elsewhere. Because both beasts were too strong for them, Leo agreed to take the harpy's interference upon himself. 3 more people ran with him. He asked them to hold the panther for 10 breaths so they could lure the harp to another place. And at this moment, Luo Yi thought that it was impossible for the harpy's nest not to be marked on the map as to how the people who followed him were involved in this, who they were trying to kill. Luo Yi or his thoughts were disturbed by a huge shadow hanging over him, and ordered everyone to scatter in different directions and run into the trees to fish for the harp. Didn't catch him even though he realized that the demonic beast was under someone's control. The person who tried to kill Luo Yi spent a lot of money to this effect. I wonder who is behind this Luo Tianchen or Luo Chanxing running uselessly against the harpy. But Chanxing is behind everything, then Luli can use lightning steps to escape. But if Tan Chen is behind him, then he can defeat him in battle. Meanwhile, Luo Tanchen saw that Liu Yu was left alone, and mentally told him to prepare for death. He sent a mental command to the harpy for the latter to attack Louis. After that, the demonic beast swooped down, fell to the ground right in front of Luo Yi, who was ready to fight. He had a sword in his hand and his eyes were full of determination. He saw his uncle on the Harpy 12, but he was calm. Theo Tan Chen looked far ahead of the guest, but Luo Yi, who understood Tian Chen's goal, Luo Yi confirmed his guess, telling about how much effort his uncle had to spend to share Lua with the team, as well as how much money was needed to control the usurper. Tian Chen praises Luo Yi for his shrewdness, even predicting a bright future for him that will not come. He asks not to blame his uncle for the fact that Luo Yi will not be able to survive. Luo Yi didn't listen to Tan Chan and was the first to attack with his own. Kai directed through the sword towards the harpy of the blue harpy, leaning and frozen forever like an ice statue. Then Tian Chen looked at the bird in the ice and was in shock. He didn't know that Luo was so fast and strong. He was definitely not in the middle stage of the 5th stage with Prodigy. He himself didn't fall under the blow. Luo Yi decided to attack Tian Chen, concentrated his energy on the sword. Tian Chen, with the help of his energy concentrated on the sword, split the ice holding back the harpy. But the latter did not rise to the sky. But after that, he thought that if Luo was able to kill a demon beast at the peak of the 7th rank, then it would be Luo himself. At least being in the 8th stage, it couldn't be that temporary. He concentrated the water technique within the sword, attacking Tian Chen's last thought. Pulling his sword, jumped back, and sent his light energy towards Liu. Water energy and light energy gathered together, causing an explosive shock wave that threw Lu and Tan Chen away. Then, on a different side, Tian Chen quickly got his bearings and approached Luo Yi. He was well aware that he should not give Louis a chance to attack the yogi, who turned around in the air and pointed his sword towards Tian Chen, thereby showing his readiness for battle. Jian Chen was offended that he wasted so much strength on a 16-year-old boy who was standing in a fighting pose and raising a sword high above his head. Tian Chen focused Kai on the sword with the naked eye visible, and it could be seen how pure and powerful energy was flowing around his body. But after that, he blocked the attack. And suddenly, Luo Yi and Tian Chen understood that the boy must not survive. Chan Chen attacked Liu with a terrible blow, but the latter was able to block it with his weapon. Sparks flew from the metal, grinding on the metal of their weapons, physically unable to withstand being filled with a large amount of Kai, both realizing with horror that their swords were collapsing. There's no way what this technique is you used the lightning step technique to dodge the attack. Tian Chen and delivered the final attack himself. Tian Chen's body fell to the ground. Then Luo Yi concluded from the battle that it was useless to stand face to face with an expert, and when using lightning steps he had to get out as fast as possible before the other blood-drawn demon beasts ran into Chen Luo and took his sword because his sword finally broke. After searching in Luo Yi's body, found a scroll with the scriptures of the 5-star shadow sword techniques, as well as a spear taming technique with similar action pills. He made a decision for himself not to return to the family, because Luo Tan Zion will soon understand who is to blame. However, Luo Yi was unable to defend himself in the case of a violent attack. Xing listened to the report from the servant about the information about Tian Chen never being received by young Master Luo Ding's team back. But after 6 days later, they didn't know anything about Chanchani Chan. Xing asked if the third group had returned. The waiter answered that they had returned 2 days ago. But Luo was not with them. Then Tanzing ordered to look more carefully for information about Tan Chen and immediately report it to him. He was worried about the absence of the 12th brother. All the tasks could not be done down, because Luo Yi was much weaker than Tian Chen. 6 months later, during this time, Luo Yi was in the cloud stream and perfecting his technique. Yet he was able to reach the 9th stage of the time technique, and at this stage, he could use the lightning step technique about 6 times. And it's time to try new abilities and control over Kai. And after training, he decided to take Dragon Tiger Pill to advance to the next level. He intended to right the wrongs of 6 months ago. To do this, he went to the cave at night. Panther alone, demonic beast, came out to meet him. His eyes glowed with overflowing energy to distract the beast. Luo Yi filled the rock with his energy and forcefully kicked towards the panther animal. It was diverted from Luo Yi, jumping to the side to avoid the blow. Luo Yi immediately hit the panther's body with his sword, plunging the animal into a prison of eternal ice. However, Luo Yi understood that the 5 elements of the air sword technique were far from the ice sword technique. But his strength definitely should not be underestimated. He was interrupted from his thoughts by a scream coming from the entrance to the cave. Liu rushed out of the cave, walking towards the noise. He saw that the huge devil mantis had injured 4 people. There were people from the Luo family and the Song family around. The eternal quarrel of the family can't ignore them. The Luo family wondered what else the family needed from them. Then, after that, they immediately came forward and attacked each other with their respective weapons, and their swords clashed with each other. Because they had given them a representative manti from the Song, the family answered that they needed a family head more than a manti head. After these words, the Luo family were armed with swords when attacking. They supported the brawl, and also swords drew rushed into the battle, watching from behind the bushes. Luo Yi understood that the Luo family had nothing to do with him. But he remembered how the 11th team leader healed Benny's sister, so he felt he decided to intervene in the fight without revealing his identity. Surrounded by enemy representatives from the Luo family, was shocked. That stranger with a robe covering his face appeared in front of them. In the blink of an eye, he was able to defeat the representatives of the Song family with a single technique of lifting them into the air. Then with a punch, he froze the opponent's body with the help of the tidal determination technique. The Luo family was shocked by such power that the representatives of the Luo family began to thank Luigi warmly. Although they understood that the latter wanted to remain anonymous, Yui disappeared from sight. After their words, family representatives discussed for a long time who the mysterious savior was. After the fight, Luo Yi returned to his parking spot. He planned to absorb the Dragon Tiger pill, which could increase cultivation level. He originally planned to absorb it at the peak of the 9th level. But his plans changed within 2 months. He had to return to the Luo family and meet Luo Tianba, who was at the peak of level 10, even though Lova did not expect all the effects of the pill, which he hoped would help him achieve the desired results. After absorbing the pill, Luo Yi's energy began to increase so much that it froze the cave walls without using any techniques. He felt pain from the tightness of the meridians in his body from the moment the pill was absorbed until the level increase should take 6 months. But why Luo immediately went from the early stage of the 9th level to the middle, we have to wait for the transition to the next level, and recover the meridian damage caused by the Pear-Day pill. There is 1 month left before returning to the Luo family. Luo Yi decided to take revenge on the first team that helped Luo Tianchen attack him standing on the tree. He saw the tent where the first team is currently the team asked Luo Ding if there was news about his father Tan Chen, but Luo Ding didn't reply because he was Tanzing. The latter explained that Tian Chen had been gone for 6 months, so he believes that the last one is gone. Dean doesn't want to believe it. His father's body hasn't been found, so he can still live. The team supports him, but because they regard 12th Uncle as a powerful master. Luo Yi found out that the team's final mission was to defeat Luo's Stage 8 drill rat. He just needed to wait for the group to leave the camp and go into the depths of the island. Otanzing's second son was also in the first group, but Luo didn't see him after that day. She assumed that Chanzing had moved her son. However, he couldn't have known that Luo Yi would defeat him, and the strange decision warned his colleagues to be careful, and because there is a layer of bloodthirsty ferrets in front of you can attract its attention. He asks when they can get to the rat drill. Luo Ding explains that they will need about 10 days, and how strange it was to say that he wanted to complete the mission as quickly as possible and return home. To himself, that Luo Hao was too unpleasant someone. Luo Hao laughed and angrily commented that he didn't need to be compared to the new fool, that only stupid Bing Yun could be hurt by a monster. And even though he deserved it because he dared to reject Luo Yi himself and deserved punishment. Luo Ding is angry. He wants to tell you how everything he thinks. But he didn't have time. Luo Yi appeared from behind at high speed. Luo Ding only managed to warn about the danger from behind and encouraged Luo how careless he was to do it, not even realizing the danger he was in and just shouting about his high status and anger. While Luo Yi was dealing with the other members of the main team with the sword in front of Luo Hao and Liu Oding, it only took one glance to recognize the sword as his father's sword. Luo Yi just grinned, but no one saw his grin through the cloak hiding his face. He confirmed that the sword was good and really belonged to 12th Uncle. After saying these words, Luo Yi took off his veil, revealing his identity. Theo Hao and Luo Ding were scared because they believed that Tian Chen should kill you with a voice full of hatred. Luo Ding asked if Luo was right, actually killed his father. Never be a bad person. However, he must respond loudly to the efforts on his life. Louis confirmed that Chan Chen had fallen in his hands and now it was his second turn. The power of hatred filled Luo Ding's body with energy. He shouted that he would avenge his father and rushed into battle. The energy swirling around him overflowed with anger. He tried to attack him with earth techniques, but it was too slow, even though he dodged every blow with the lightning step technique. Then, Luo Dang drew her sword and jumped towards Luo Yi, but after that, he caught his breath in the instant he was in front, leaving Luo Ding behind. Luo Ding froze. The sword fell from his weak hand. His body folded in half and fell dead. He stood in front of Luo Yi's body, which was lying on the ground, and thinking about him, even knowing that his father had lost him. Luo Ding is still trying to get revenge. This is awesome. But he is not the only one who should be punished. He turned to Luo Hao and told 17th brother it was his turn to Mule Hao, trying to reason with Luo Yi, shouting about whether the latter understood what he was doing. Luo Yi replied with a grin that he wanted to show his strength to 17th brother. At the same time, he formed a huge lump of energy in his hand, and he begged, asking to let her go home. He promised to do anything. Luo Yi disdainfully remarks what a greedy and pathetic person Tan Bao's son can be. Luo Yi tries to refuse, However, when he met Furious's gaze, he fell silent, his eyes filled with tears, and he began to apologize to Luo. He thought that it would be a shame to kill such a pathetic and cowardly person because it was not fun at all. Then he concentrated his Kai energy in the sword and attacked the latter, trying to repel with his power, but realized that it was useless. Lyogi was too strong. Yet an unknown sword force helped repel Luo Yi's blow and threw him back. If he was below the 9th rank, he would definitely disappear. Luo Yi realized that Luo Hao was aided by the dominating sword energy. He must have given it to save his son's life. But that wasn't a problem. As long as Luo Yi was careful, he would do it. Able to defeat Luo, how regardless of how many more blows his sword can make, Vu Ochamba learn the pain of losing a child. Theory begins to attack, cutting through the air with Kai energy. Then he warned that Luo Tianba would never spare Luo. He left the latter, not caring about Luo Hao's words, concentration of energy in the body. Luo Yi was so big that even his eyes were burning with Kai. He dealt Luo Hao the last blow of his life. O Hao fell to the low ground and dropped the first team's body. Decided that the bloodthirsty weasels whose lair was nearby would get rid of them. He won't, if it weren't for the first team's desire to hurt him. It was their own fault. A few days later, Tanzing furious. He was informed that the remains of the first team were found in the nest of the bloodthirsty civets, along with the remains of the civet Chanzingheist. What the informant meant was that the entire first team was eaten by the bloodthirsty civets. And then he himself died from wounds that couldn't be, because Luo Ding wasn't stupid enough to venture into the monster's nest. There must be someone else involved in this. And then leaves the work to the surviving monsters, so it turns out to be a mock battle with a thirsty badger. If the unknown person was really pulling this, then his strength must be very great. But what was the point of covering his tracks, if he was really Tanzing strong, ordering the informant to come out, because he had to think about the situation? He also ordered not to search for information about the first team. Luo Tianliu couldn't survive. But the third group found his sword, and Luo Yi's level didn't allow him to fight Tian Chen on equal terms, so maybe Luo was hiding his true strength, or someone strong was behind him. If Luo is still alive, then he must not return to the Luo family. Chanzing opened his eyes, shining with golden energy. Then after that, Luo Yi was at the top of the slope, practicing at the foot of the mountain covered with ice. Luo Sandiri made rhythmic movements with the sword, calmly observing him. Luo Yi gradually increased his rank. The energy around him rose up on huge blue legs and soared into the sky, filling the sword in Luo Yi's hand with power. He was finally able to achieve this concentrated energy at the tip of the sword. He spent a lot of time practicing with the sword and his body, which helped him adapt to the new level. The tidal determination technique is a water attribute. Everyone knows that water itself has 3 states of liquid, gas, and salt. Everyone thinks that the strongest tide technique is the ice form. But this is the wrong sea wave that flies back and forth. The water rises and forms a strong wave. The strength of liquid water is the same, but the strength is different. What can withstand the attacks of the giant waves in this world, which are getting stronger, and getting stronger again and again? But he will need more time, and is in the 9th stage. He would become able to challenge Tan Xing, who is at the peak of the 10th stage. 2 months later, the end-of-year Tianxing was performed in front of the masters, who passed the exam. He announced that the Luo family only took 3rd place, where they received the Autumn Water Sword. Tiger Soul Sword, Medical Spiritual Pill. No rank 1. Kai Collection Pill of the 1st rank. This weapon is the 4th rank of the Heavenly and Earth Longsword. They are very hard to find. Most of the family elders have the same type. As for Kai Pill Collection, everyone can get it. Then he said that he also wanted to get pills to gather Kai to move from the 6th to the 7th. Ray Lu promised to give the pills 13. Get it in the distance. Someone saw a silhouette. Lonely walking slowly, Chan Xing immediately recognized him as Luo. He couldn't believe how the last one was holding up. He urges to wait for the award and rushes to meet Lu Chan. Xing did not believe that Chan Chen, Luo Ding, and Lu Ol could find their end at the hands of Liu. And if this is indeed the case, then Luo's power should be. But before he could think about it, Luo Yi fell face down on the ground, barely breathing. The wound is real. How could he get a wound like that? Yuo can't fool him either, and get a wound like that from a monster on purpose. Then, after that, just a boy, he couldn't deceive him. However, he was lucky to escape from the clutches of death, and even luckier to survive. After returning to Luo's estate, Chanxing took Luo and took him towards the OU hospital. He was happy that so many students saw them, which made Tianxing unable to do anything to him. Everything goes according to plan in Luo camp. You meet the worried Bingyun Luyan and Luo Xing. They immediately rush to help, simultaneously asking about the state of health. And about what happened, will you turn to Chanxing with a request to take Luo Yi for treatment? He was allowed to do so even though in the third team couldn't go even in the hospital. They asked if everything would be okay with Luo and Lord Pei involved in the treatment. Master reported that Luo Yi was fine. He had just lost a lot of blood and fell into a coma. Young body recovered quickly. And 3 days later, that during 1 year of training on the island, they returned to their families. He will be completely healthy, Lu. You notice the oddity. Bingyun was injured at the start of their training, and now she was wondering where Luo had been all this time. After a year of training on the island, the Lo family members returned home. The third team walked along the Osing Pier carrying Luo Yi, who had just woken up. Then Xing directly asked where he had been for 7 months, and how he received his injury. Luo Yi explained that it was because of the purple bird. While running, he got lost in the forest. He had to fight a lot of monsters, thank you, that worked. He returned. Will you see that Luo Yi has been searched for dozens of miles? But unable to find it, Xing also expressed confusion. But their conversation was interrupted by Bingyun, who interrupted with the words, if everything is fine with Luo, then everything is fine. And he is supported by seeing that as long as he is alive, nothing else matters. Although you understand that Luo Yi has no reason to lie. But none of the third group returned, and third uncle did not react to this in any way. If he knew that there wouldn't be the first group who would already be in the ship's cabin on their way home, Luo Yi also continued to practice his technique. However, he was shocked to realize that ordinary swords could not compare to such earth and heaven-ranked items. Tianchen Luo's sword and threw it into the sea. Luo Yi concentrated the energy in the sword and then pointed it in the direction he needed. After several months of training with the sword, he was able to achieve rhythmic superposition with this technique. At his lightning-fast pace, Luo Tianba would not be able to resist. A month later, here the largest pure dansha in the prefecture Tandu Us is waiting for the arrival of the ship with new arrivals who should return today. The passengers of the ship are also happy to arrive home. After a month of wandering in the sea, he was worried that the third master sent him a letter saying that Liu was still alive. Seeing him smile with his own eyes, Seosin just pursed his lips. Because he was annoyed, he let low and continued to smile. While he could, Yuosin was informed that the third teacher had arrived. Therefore, the instructor met with Tianxing. Chanxing noticed with annoyance that Luo-san had become too arrogant and was starting to forget his place of courage. And he disrespected Luo Chanxing by paying attention in front of him. Luo Yi thinks that Luo Sen is Luo Tianba's dog because Luo Li has returned. Everyone is in danger. He has to move in with Aunt Yi Er. He invites the third team to have fun in the city sing, and Liu agreed that after so much rest is necessary. After that, the team was taken home. Then he didn't say he would come for dinner after saying goodbye to his friends. But after that, Luo Yi went home thinking about what Aunt Yi Er was doing. Knocking on the door, he heard the sound of a violin man opening the door and saw Liu Yang with a robe covering his head. Yang was shocked and couldn't believe that the young master had returned home. You saw a trail of blood and angrily asked where Aunt Yi Er was. Luo Yi couldn't answer anything as a furious force exploded from Luo Yi's body in an uncontrolled flow and knocked down the door and some of the furniture in the room, raising dust immediately. Then, when her aunt asked Luo where she was going, she suddenly coughed and immediately told her to sit down and not worry. After Luo Yi saw his aunt in a wheelchair, she knelt in front of him, shocked by what she saw. Aunt Yi Er tried to soften the news and said how happy she was, that the young master had returned safely. Yui was not fooled, and asked what happened without waiting for an answer. Luo Yi jumped to his feet, but Aunt Yi stopped him. She asked him not to do anything stupid because he was fine. Yuli objected that he was still far from being fine. She started to calm him down. He found a special spot on her neck that helps a person to fall asleep and pressed it. Aunt Yi fell asleep and Luo Yi carried her to bed, carefully covering her with a blanket. Luo Yi, filled with righteous indignation, demands Yang Luo to answer who did this to Aunt Yi. His answer is Lo. San Lu Yi asks when it happened. Yang Luo explains that about a month ago, Luo Sen came and tried to kill Aunt Yi. But only when he saw the woman did he attack her without a word. The yogi remembered that a month ago, Chan Xing sent a letter to Luo Sen, saying that Luo he was still alive. So Luo San wanted to destroy the lowly and important and expensive Yang Luo, fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness because he couldn't shield his gaze, calmed him down, and lifted him from his knees. He still can't do anything. Yang Yo says that Yi Er's leg is broken, and her health is shaken. The cup of patience has overflowed. And now Chan Spirit and Luo San will pay dearly for their mistakes. Luo Yi instructed Luo Zhang to look after his aunt. While he was leaving the house, Luo thought that they were forcing him to play a scary game. But this game will be more interesting when at home Luo San thinks hard that Luo Yi might have gone home. Then will he come to him? Luo San admitted that he was too worried there was no reason for this, since one person gave him the Dao Soul seal anyway. Luo San had decided that he would not even leave the bones of Luo Yi, no matter whether the latter came or not. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a piece of destroyed wall that fell not far from Luo San, who was last waiting for Luo Yi's arrival. So he took his sword from the table closest to him. Luo Yi stepped on Luo San. Luisan fell to the ground from the impact. Luo Yi slowly walked over to Luo San, who was lying on the ground. While crawling, he tried to escape. However, Luo Yi energy revolved around him. He indifferently raised the tip of the sword above Luo San, filling him with energy. Then he continued to swear and Luo Yi attacked. Luo San was able to block the blow with his energy, but the energy grows and is thrown low and returns. After the energy disappeared, Luo Yi Santambu praised his nephew. Luo Yi also admitted to being impressed by the power of two colossal energies standing opposite each other. Yu O-san, who was at the feet of third uncle, asked him to help Kiluo and understand why Luo San was so arrogant because of his uncle. And he gave her 3 protective charms and also personally came to save her. Then he advised Luo San to rest, and then turned to Luo Yi, while he wasn't surprised by what happened. Lo knows everything. Luo Yi just explained that the Luo family is the strongest in the rules of power within it. So there was nothing surprising about him admitting that he underestimated Liu. He chuckles and says loudly that there is a strong man behind Luoi's back, and he inherited his power. Luo Yi suggests that he check the protector and not be careful anymore. Tamba simply replies that it is for his son in Nuosan. Louis had to pay with his life. You'll notice that his uncle was indeed stronger than him, but he wouldn't be able to win. Chamba just grinned and doubted the latter's abilities. At that moment, it attacked Chamba first, but the last one was able to deviate. He concentrated the fiery kai in his palm and directed it towards Louis, but his energy was met with the tidal determination technique. Luo Tianba said that Luogi was too weak to fight him, so Logan used the 5 elements Tiamber air combat equipment to recognize the technique, but couldn't understand why the blow was so powerful. So he tried to fight the energy, but every time the attacks got stronger. And getting stronger, then he used all his strength to direct the fire technique. In Luo Yi hurting the last Luo, he understood that he had to become stronger to continue fighting at the same level now. However, he defended himself because he was afraid that if Tamba won, he would hurt Aunt Yi. Chanbo, confident in his victory, attacked Luo with a series of blows. He was sure Liu wouldn't be able to dodge Luo. His attack was able to avoid injury due to the fact that he used the lightning step technique. He noticed with regret that there was a trace of energy remaining. Once their technique might catch him in this trace, if he is full of power, he will be able to do it. Then after that, he ran away and stood on the tip of a tree. But the fight with Luo Yi. Then weakening him, Tamba suggests that Luo Yi take their time and surrender, as the latter will not be able to escape from his uncle. Luo Yi ignored the enemy's words. He understood that he could only use the lightning step technique twice, as he needed to focus on concentrating Kai on his feet. Luo Yi was able to apply the Tamba technique only to the side, by irritating this battle in vain. Then he used the lightning step technique to chase after Luo Yi, who was trying to escape with his last string. Luo Yi landed on the edge of the spitting ground as Chamba also sank into the ground. He chuckled. Even the gods are not on the side of scum. He lashed out with a fiery shot at Luo Yi's back, which the latter was able to dodge, but this was what Chamba was waiting for. After all, that blow was supposed to destroy the edge of the cliff. So Luo Yi fell into the abyss space, repeatedly attacking Luo Yi, who was already flying down, but the latter was able to gather the last grain of energy and fight against Chamba, paying attention to Luo. In despair, the cliff was too deep, and the boy had no chance of surviving. Luo Yi tried to use the rhythm of the blue rain technique sick. He tried to confuse Tanbu and hide Liu Ya flying from sight. He was well aware that Tamba's energy had touched his internal organs. And the last technique had used up all of his Kai energy? No, he wasn't ready to release the spherical ball of Kai energy that was forming around him. Kamar realized that this was an innate intent technique. He was stunned. Once Chan Feng learned this technique before Chamba himself, and now his descendants could do it again. He pulled away. Viola continued to fall no problem. When they learn the technique, the only thing that matters is that in the next world they won't need it. He left Yoyemus, which, according to Chamba, this was his last flight. But unfortunately, Chanba Luo had been on this cliff. He knew that there were vines scattered inside Alan that needed to hold on to one of them to keep himself alive, even though the wounds caused him unbearable suffering. And then, on a very large cliff, a large dragon was seen entangled between the cliffs with a barbed rope. But after that, he struggled. He wanted to live when he felt someone's gaze on him, and turned around. He saw a big eye shining with red light wrapped in a vine. The demon snake approached Luo Yi. The man was frantically thinking about what he should do because he didn't want to become dinner for the beast. While the snake was preparing to attack him and remembered that he had the pseudo-royal elixir, it helped to control the mind of the demon beast. The beast only needed to swallow the pill Obi prepared and wait for the snake's mouth to open to eat Luo Yi. But the latter managed to throw the pill inside. He was surprised to see that it worked. Then he applied his Ya Kai Zero control technique. But he wanted to live too much now the technique was sucking spiritual power. Luo Yi boy ordered the monster to take him to the beast's lair happily. Then he began to fulfill his wish. The tip of his tail wrapped around Luo Yi's body, and then the man felt a discharge through his body. This was the snake energy flowing in the body, preparing to throw into the abyss, into the animal's nest, in an uncomfortable condition. Like that, he spent some time until he reached the snake's nest. After that, Luo Yi ordered the demonic beasts to bring food, and then watched the huge body disappear into the cave opening that you wanted to recover faster. But he couldn't stay in one place for a long time. It was too dangerous. He tried to train the tidal determination technique again from the first stage. To strengthen the training, Kai was interrupted by the returning beast, which was carrying the carcass of some small animal in its mouth. Luo Yi thought he could control the animal and recover its energy using the elixir too much UAV power contained within. While eating the cooked carcass, he thought that when the elixir's power runs out, the beast will become aggressive towards the controller. The pill's power will last about 3 hours. However, after that, he had to escape from the nest. If he didn't want to become a snack, he just hoped the nest wasn't high and he could only escape through the entrance. Luo Yi ordered the demonic beasts to leave, which the latter obeyed, and with all his usual speed rushed down the rock. He understood that the vines had saved his life earlier now. If the beast tears it apart, he wouldn't be able to get out of the cave so suddenly. The cry of the firebird sounded in the sky. He swooped down and grabbed the snake's body with his claws. It was amazing. The possibility was very small. And even if you think about it, it's quite logical. The lower he fell, the further he was from the Luo family, and the more monsters appeared. It was too dangerous. Outside, there might be monsters there that are superior to low strength. He decided to find a secluded place and continue training to regain his strength. Wheelie wandered around in the cave trying to find a safe place, but suddenly he saw a light coming from the depths of the cave, even though you were starting to get closer, preparing to attack. But this was just his way out of the nest, and a huge underground lake full of pure water spread out before his eyes. In the center of the lake cave was a white lotus of extraordinary beauty. The lotus illuminated the entire alcove like a flashlight. Luo Yi stared at the flower in amazement. Even though the place was located deep in the mountains and it was night outside, but the flower continued to shine like moonlight. He decided to explore. The lotus was already moving towards the flower. Then after that, he saw a snake in the ice with his peripheral vision. Luo Yi realized that the beast was frozen only after touching the water with his water force level. Luo Yi would not be able to walk without danger on the surface of the lake. He was just going to turn into a local statue. Finding this plant in a strange place was amazing. He decided to come back to this place, after recovering in low check and breaking training. Meanwhile, at the lows, the patriarch is angry because anger is caused by facts. That the head of the family was called earlier in the circle of elders to tell the head that he had killed the traitor. Luo San, the patriarch, was shocked. Was Luo Yi really that dangerous? Was this message really worth it for the head of the family? Back to the front time, Chamba started the story about how he attacked Luo San, who was an elder, for no reason, and injured him. However, he bravely came to defend Luo San, but the crazy Luo Yi also attacked him. It was dangerous, so he decided to get rid of the boy. Luo Yi broke the family law and no one dared to break it. Chamba insisted that he follow the family rules, and everyone in his place should do the same. Family should come first. Then he bowed his head respectfully and surrendered his fate to the patriarch's will. He was ready to endure punishment or demotion. If the head considers his actions illegal, anger bubbles inside the head. Family law nonsense. And how dare Chamba kill his grandson? How dare all the elders treat his family like that? But at the same time, he understood it was impossible to kill Luo Chanbu because his father would challenge him and his family would start to collapse. He was the head of the Luo family and could not allow civil strife for the sake of his family. He had to restrain his emotions. He mentally asked Luo Yi to wait for Grandpa. Grandpa will definitely reply harshly. He said that Chamba is true. Family law is absolute. No one dares to violate it. Even the grandson of the head, with that he asked to finish and move on to discussing the annual Tamba festival, just grinned. He was well aware that the patriarch knew his situation and understood that his father would defend him. 5 days later, Luo Yi trained hard to strengthen his Kai, thanks to the healing properties of the tidal determination technique. He has almost healed his body, and the damaged meridians are healing. There is only a little time left, right? Kai is not perfect, so he needs to be treated with self-medication. Luo Yi could regain his strength only from the 6th to the 7th stage. The yogi returns to an unusual place in the cave, although he didn't know what the strength of the beast in the ice was. But he understood that his huge body froze in a split second. Even if he practiced water techniques himself, he still wouldn't be able to withstand such a coal mite using lightning steps. Lu would be able to cross the lake, but danger might lurk in the flower itself, might have the same power as water. The light illuminating the lotus also confused Luo Yi as it appeared out of nowhere. Luo Yi's thoughts slowly flowed into another channel. He understood that it was impossible to fight with Chamba. Now it was necessary to reach at least innate realm. And only after that challenge, uncle, maybe the fact that he entered this cave would help him. And he will be able to find something valuable. If it is not possible to pass through the lake, then you have to climb through the entrance to the lake cave, which is hundreds of meters from the entrance. And he started to return to the hole where he and the demonic beast had entered the cave after surfacing. Luo Yi moved along the walls and vines with the help of energy at several points. However, he heard the distinctive sound of monkeys and was surprised. He followed the sound and saw a group of demon monkeys in the bushes. Their vines were weak, but there were too many, so Luo decided to avoid them, but his gaze fell on the big hole in the mountain. This could be the way to Mount began to observe as the monster began to devour the monkeys. The survivors scattered in different directions after finding the best moment low and rushed towards the opening in the rock, trying not to be seen by the animals entering the opening. And then, at a cave opening, he finally managed to get to the exit of the cave. Luo Yi realized that although the link looked big, it was mostly occupied by the monkey nest. Disappointed, he realized that the cave did not lead to the mountain and was about to leave. But he saw the monkey approaching him. He realized that the animal was drunk. He is the king. Luo Yi didn't understand how the king could sleep while his followers were being chased by a bird while inspecting the beast. Luo Yi saw a cup in his paw, and there was liquid inside. The boy thought it was wine. According to legend, monkey wine is made from the fruit of the legendary fruit brewed in water from the mountain spring. He wondered what the drink tasted like and grabbed the cup. Luo jumped back with his own reflex. Then at that time, the monkey attacked at the place where Liu was supposed to be. The impact was so strong that it destroyed the top layer of the earth, and the energy released by the Monkey King enveloped the entire cave. Luo Yi jumped back again as the monkey concentrated fire energy in its paws and rushed towards Luo Yi's man, trying to block the blow with his kai. But he couldn't, and flew back. Luo Yi understood that the monkey was strong, even if it only relied on kai. Actually, where did such power come from? He wasn't given much time to think as they started a series of attacks. The man decided to test the strength and power of the beast's body for himself to do this. Him using the cloud destruction technique in battle consumed too much energy. The Monkey King was unharmed. Luo was shocked because his technique was able to kill an expert of the 8th rank. The body of the beast was as tough as its bones. The monkey froze and watched the man. Luo Yi decided that he just didn't want to make any unnecessary moves. Was this the beast's natural talent, or was there another reason for it? And his power started to move towards the stone tablet, which was lying horizontally on a small rise, and at that moment the Monkey King became restless and tried to attack again. Even though he assumed that the beast's power was contained in this tablet, Luo Yi pushed against it. The animal returned with an annihilation technique and quickly aimed its energy-filled palm at the rock. He warned the aggressive beast that, if he approached the man, it would break the mark. The monkey immediately subdued his energy and admitted defeat with all his appearance. Luo Yi took the tablet, his hand, and realized that it was the lid covering the wine vessel that made the Monkey King so strong because of the wine. The Monkey King offered to drink the wine from his cup, but as soon as Luo Yi grabbed it, the beast pushed him away and drank all the contents. The man became angry. He hated being fooled as the animal started to attack Luo Yi. He noticed that the monkey's strength and speed increased. And then when the monkey was about to attack him, but he quickly shot at him and instantly made the monkey freeze. And after the drink counterattacked, Luo Yi used the blue rain sword technique and realized that it was time for Luo Yi to penetrate the monkey's body, causing the beast to be covered with a crust. Then after that, he defeated the beast, but regretfully thought that the stupid beast did not understand the true value of wine. The man was inspired to discover monkey wine with its beneficial effects. The cave entrance, and realizing that another monkey would soon come, he had to get out of the cave as soon as possible. And because he had discovered something that would be useful to him in the future, Grape Monkey. He plans to return to a quiet place and start absorbing grapes to gain more freezing power of the resulting ice ball liquid. He covered it with his jacket and headed to a safe place for himself. He decided that after regaining his strength, he was going to find out the reason for the strange light returning to his cave. Luo Ye broke the ice ball into several small pieces and started absorbing it. He immediately felt his whole body burning. But there is no pain. The increase in mass and energy exploding the internal organs was an indescribable feeling. However, he was able to recover and increase his physical strength in a short time. After the power surge, he expected to use lightning steps about 10 times, and if he eats the remaining pieces of grapes, he will be able to reach level 10. Several days later, Luo Yi spent endless practice of various techniques. Currently, he couldn't use lightning steps infinitely yet. However, he can use that technique, and at least 14 times Luo Yi understood that he could have beaten Tampa. But his father was the 13th elder, and a warrior of the innate realm was too strong. It was too early to return to the family only after comprehending the innate kingdom. The boy can return to the Luo family, but to achieve it in the shortest possible time requires a miracle. Therefore, Lu will go to investigate the cause of the light. Perhaps this will be the key to increasing his level. Then, Luo Yi decided to start exploring from the top, so he started climbing the mountain. Surprisingly, he had been to Cave Mountain so many times, but this was the first time. He climbs to another ledge. Luo Yi looked around and saw the Devil's Nest. It is located on Gaofeng Peak. While the monsters were looking for food below, Luo managed to get up without climbing incident. Luo Yi heard a monkey scream. But this is impossible because their nests are much lower. Besides, there are bird nests nearby. What can they do here? He watched some monkeys come out of the cave carrying some objects in their hands. Where are they going? Do they have fruit in their hands? Ripe fruit in the mountains? Even in winter, this is impossible. There shouldn't be a natural garden here. Luo Yi climbed into the cave where the monkey had just come out. He thought about how useful this place was. Inside the mountain, there is a Yan pond with a mysterious light source in the shape of a lotus. Inside the monkey cave, there is wine that can increase strength. And there was even a huge garden, a large expanse covered with various plants and trees opened up in front of Luo Yi's eyes. However, he could hardly believe that no one had been here before. But on the other hand, if this is a human's work, then he must be very strong. So he could reach heaven and earth, but he would think about that later. Now we need to focus to find the light source. There is no entrance to the cave. In this section, only a large fruit tree Luo Yi had to climb up to find the light source he planned to find. Then he pointed his hand at a wall of fire, and suddenly a group of wild animals attacked him from the wall and injured him until blood came out of his mouth. However, before the demon beast returned, it saw a depression on the top of the mountain and entered it. He noticed that even though the cave was formed naturally, there were still traces of human intervention, and most likely there was an owner. It turned out that the monsters were just watching over this place until the owner came. But that doesn't matter. You need to check out what's next, moving further along the cave. Luo Yi found a huge monster. Its body was covered in scales, and its head had the appearance of a lion at the end of the tail. There was a snake head that was spitting fire. The monster was behind a gate covered in touching patterns. Liu was thrown back. The monster flew out of the gate. He knocked Luo Yi off his feet and pierced his body with energy. Luo Yi just didn't have time to do anything lowly and thought what was wrong with this gate because of the monster his soul released. But he suffered. If it wasn't for his true Kai, he wouldn't be able to breathe anymore. A gate with just a few patterns could attack someone's spirit. It's unimaginable how terrifying someone who made something like that would be. Then no matter what, Luo Yi couldn't stay in this place for long. The owner could come back at any time. He decided that he would first recover his energy and body and then make a plan. And after that, he started cultivating the time technique of exploring his energy in the meridians. Luo Yi was surprised to find that the monster's blow affected him like a dragon pill. Then after that, he helped him level up to the middle of the 5 elements water tent available at level 10. And this technique helps to condense true energy. Luo Yi decided to immediately try the technique, which to his surprise he succeeded, and he was able to reproduce one of the strongest blows. However, Luo Yi understood that he was still weak. He needed to reach the innate realm. But now it is necessary to leave after touching the gate. The owner should already know about the Lo Loi and cannot return the same way he came. So he used his energy and broke through the cave wall, releasing the energy that enveloped his body and helped him keep his body intact. But after that, he came out of the cave, but didn't understand where to move. Sean's aunt and Bing Yun were probably already mourning for him, but he couldn't return to them until he reached the innate realm for more than a month. Luo Yi had been drinking monkey wine and practicing the blue rain of the rhythm of the sword technique. He didn't know whether it would really help him reach the innate river-seeing realm. Luo Yi decided to follow the river down as it should lead to Chandu along the way. He would train rhythm to reach the innate realm in 15 days. Then Luo Yi practiced hard, and achieved a new technique that emerged from rhythm. He called this technique magic snow dance. And he finally arrived. And now he's trying to figure out where to rest. His attention was attracted by Martial Academy's Dong, so he immediately went to the head of the academy. Then the old man first turned to Luo Yi and asked him if he wanted to enter the martial arts academy. Then he decided that the person who had been standing half the day near the gate wanted to register. He also clarified that the entry fee was 2 heads of silver, but he objected. After that, he clarified that he wanted to study at the academy, but not as a student. But with the application, the elder was surprised and asked, "Which part you want?" But he was confused and said that he wanted to become a martial arts master. Then, after that, the man assessed the strength and realized that Luo Yi had reached the 3rd leg of cultivation. And after that, he offered to pass the law and checked to start work and offered to follow it.